There's some research that suggests that, you are 60 times more likely to kind of qualify and convert a lead if you respond quickly in the first hour compared to, 24 hours or longer, right? So speed to lead is something you all know is important, even though it's hard to achieve. So we want to talk a little bit about that today, but we also want to talk about persistence. That all too often, the pushback that we hear from gym owners, and it's understandable, we love you, even though you say this, is that I just don't want to bug my leads. I don't want to reach out too much and annoy them or piss them off and then have them, ghost me. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. I'm back with Mr. Pickard today, and it's midsummer. How's your summer going, my friend?
Summer's going so well. We are really maximizing time with friends, time with family. As we speak, I'm headed off for another camping trip in a few days. Ketch and I are planning a road trip to the East Coast. I know we're not latitude wise that much more north than you.
Sure.
A lot of the United States is actually more north than me. So Canada isn't the Arctic, but it still feels like our summer just flies by. And especially now that Liam is 13, he just finished doing a grade 10 school course, high school, to get ahead. We've only got so many more summers that he's going to want to hang with us. So we want to
try to keep the family tight
right now.
Yeah. You got to maximize every moment while they still want to hang out with dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good for you. I'm glad you're getting some fun family summertime. That's awesome.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, my summer's been really good. It's been a pretty good mix of keeping it local, keeping it chill. Andrew and I decided this year to not make any huge summer trips, so we're kind of keeping it local. We go to Fire Island, we go to Jersey Shore, where my family is, and so we've done that this year. But we've stayed pretty close, which is nice. It's nice to scope familiar places in the summer.
Yeah, and it sometimes can feel like you need a vacation from your vacation. So if you're keeping it reasonable, it's not like you're trying to jam too much stuff into too small a bag.
Yeah. And I'm just, grateful at this point in our life. We both know as entrepreneurs that there's been plenty of years of our lives where taking a vacation at all felt almost impossible. So to be at the place now where we're on a regular basis, taking multiple vacations per year, we just got to stop and smell the roses and be like, I'm just grateful for that, right? To be at a place where our businesses allow us to do that. And we work on with people like each other who encourage us to do that, which is nice. And that's something I wish for all of you dear listeners, that if some of you might not be there yet, right? But if you've been in your business for more than a year or two, hopefully you're at least getting to the place where you see yourself going on vacation more. And hopefully you're building a team around you where you all are encouraging each other to take time off and supporting each other in doing that. Because, Mark and I just recorded a podcast about burnout that probably came out a few episodes before this one. But that's a real thing. And Ben and I are over here trying to avoid burnout by taking some summer time off.
There's definitely a longevity aspect to being a successful entrepreneur. And if you go too hard, too fast, and that, kills your spirit.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys talked about this in the episode.
Yeah.
There's something about being if you can just be in the game for long enough, you're kind of naturally going to win.
100%. Yeah. It's a numbers game. You got to put in the reps over time. And if you burn out early, it's like a marathon. There's some racing analogy here, I'm sure, but it's like a marathon. Yeah. All right, friends. Well, let's switch gears and talk about today's topic, which is we're talking about lead follow-up. And, we've covered lead follow-up a ton on this podcast before, and you all know how important it is. I mean, there's some research that suggests that, you are 60 times more likely to kind of qualify and convert a lead if you respond quickly in the first hour compared to, 24 hours or longer, right? So speed to lead is something you all know is important, even though it's hard to achieve. So we want to talk a little bit about that today, but we also want to talk about persistence. That all too often, the pushback that we hear from gym owners, and it's understandable, we love you, even though you say this, is that I just don't want to bug my leads. I don't want to reach out too much and annoy them or piss them off and then have them, ghost me. And listen, I get that sentiment. No one wants to be that annoying marketer or salesperson. But the reality is that all of your leads lead busy lives, right? They're family members, they're workers, they're community members, they're contributing in all kinds of ways in their lives. And if you can't break through that noise, and help them establish a new habit, which is coming to your gym, you're never going to get them if you can't get their attention. And so you really have to be persistent. So we're going to walk through all the things that we recommend and that we do both in our gyms and frankly here in Business for Unicorns, right? As a business, we do all these things. Ben's our salesperson. And so we want to just talk through exactly what it looks like to get speed to lead and exactly what it looks like to be persistent. Anything you would share right up front here, Ben? Anything I missed?
No, that was good. I think it's well, yeah. I guess there clearly is something. Yeah, there's always talk of like what's the best software and what's the best this and what should we use for that.
Yeah.
And I think the way I think of that is those are all in service of the principles that you're trying to execute on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, yes, you probably are going to want, if you don't have already, some sort of automation software, but it's not about necessarily the best software. It's about what's the one that can help you execute what you know you need to do, even if it's kind of scary.
Yep.
And sometimes we lose all that for the noise when it's like the goal of a lead is to get them to take the next step. And the goal of that next step is to get them to take the next step. So all we're doing is how do we make that as easy as possible for them? And sometimes that actually takes sending way more messages than you think it has, so you don't just get lost in their inbox.
Yeah, I think it's a really crucial distinction. So I'm going to say it out loud again because I think people need to hear it twice. Which is, the goal of every interaction when you're following up with leads is to get them to take a next step. And I think so often this process can be a little overwhelming, or you feel like you have to be really pushy because you're trying to get them to sell during every interaction. That's not it. We're not trying to get them to break out their credit card in the first interaction, the first time we reach out. This is the start of a relationship we're trying to build. So there are multiple touch points over multiple days and weeks with a lead to get them to take a next step, which is just the next step, right? You don't have to get them all the way to home base in every single interaction, right? And so I think think of this as like little nudges over time. You can use the analogy of like dating, but some people don't date very slow. But imagine if you're a slow one step at a time kind of dater, then we are going to take this respectfully, one step at a time. And then, I think that does become a good analogy. So let's just start at the beginning. So when a new lead comes in, talk a little bit about, Ben, how you see people really achieving that speed to lead.
Yeah. So the simplest way to get speed to lead is to have some sort of automation that when somebody opts in within the first few minutes, or as long as it takes your software to do so, they get a text and an email. Right now, perfect world, we would have a robot who never needs to sleep and never complains and never takes vacation, sit by the phone, and as soon as that comes through, they're on the horn with them.
Sure.
Probably not realistic in businesses the size of ours.
Yep.
The easiest way is like get them to send a text, or get the software to send a text, get the software to send an email. And it's just for the record, not, "Hi, Michael, we've received your inquiry. We'll get back to you later." It is something that you didn't manually send that message, but you actually wrote that message. It's like, "Hey, Michael, it's Ben from my gym. I just saw you're interested in what we do. When's a good time for us to connect?" Or even better would be like, "The first step is a quick phone call so I can get to know you and make sure this is the right fit for you. When's a good time to connect?"
Yeah.
Like, that's something that a human would say to another human.
Yeah, it should sound real, right? All these follow-ups we're doing, both by email and by text, even if we're using automations, it should sound like we're reaching out to a person to person, friend to friend, right? People want some sense that there's a human behind the robots. Even if they know it's automated, it should make them question like, "Oh, did someone actually write this?" Right? It should not sound like it's coming from a company or a robot. It should sound like it's coming from a friend. And I think that's an important part of it. And I'll just say here that, a quick shout out to our friends at Kilo. You all know one of our favorite pieces of software that we use. We recommend highly is Kilo. Use kilo.com. Go check them out. And you can absolutely set up automated texts and emails to go out exactly like this, and even prompt yourself to make the phone calls, right? To make the workflow easy for you and whoever else is doing your lead follow-up. So just going back to where you left off, Ben. So moment one, a lead opts in, they get an immediate text and email, automated if possible. What else happens?
Yeah. And this is where it might get a little bit uncomfortable, but you want to call them a lot.
Yeah.
So for the first, we kind of break it down in the first stage is day 1 through 3. So let me kind of give you the overview. So day 1, as soon as possible, they're getting the text and the email. You're also calling them and leaving a voicemail that you as a human leave. So it's a personal interaction, like you'd say it like a friend. And then you're also going to try calling them 2 more times that day. So if a lead comes through at, 9 a.m. They've got a text and an email at 9:05. Hopefully, you're phoning them at like 9:10 if you can. Double call because not everyone's phone's going to ring if you're not in their contacts and you're probably not in your leads contacts. And they're trying them again later that day. And it's not a pushy, hey, Michael, you've got to sign up for our program now, or some false urgency of like, if you don't sign up now, there's no more spots. But it's letting them know like, hey, we've received your thing and we take this, we take this seriously. We want to help you get to your goals. We're a responsive company that you can trust.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. I think that anyone listening might hear what you just said and might be sweating a little bit at this point to say, okay, they get an automated text and email. They get a voicemail earlier in the day because people don't answer. And then we're going to call them usually 2 more times. And part of the calling twice is that most people have do not disturb on their phone and they're not going to respond to any number they don't know. And so if you have do not disturb on the phone won't even ring. So you have to kind of double call them. You have to call, hang up, call again, even just get the phone to ring, right, the first time. And so I think, calling that many times is not pushy because people just won't answer the phone. How many calls per day do you all get where you just like don't pay attention to it? Are you bothered by it? No, we're so used to getting calls. And if it's not from a number we don't know, we just ignore it. We move on, right? But these are people who actually asked for your help. Right? These aren't random political calls or junk calls. These are people who opted in on your website or through your social media or through an event and said, hey, Ben, I want to learn more about your gym. And so you're fulfilling on a request that they made from you. It's kind of rude if you don't follow up this much to try and get their attention because they asked you for help. This is how you help them, is by getting their attention to get them to take the next step. Okay, so that's kind of day 1 immediately. How do the rest of the kind of stage 1, days 1 through 3 pan out here?
Basically the same. You're doing the same thing. So day 2, you're going to do the same thing. Call with a voicemail, probably in the morning. If possible, when the lead came through is always the idea is that if they had time to submit their information at whatever noon, they probably have time at noon the next day, but that's not always the case.
Yep.
So you're going to call with a voicemail, you're going to send them a text, and you're going to do 2 more calls that day. And then day 3 is basically the same thing. Call with a voicemail, text, also send an email in this case, and then 2 more calls that day. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're talking like 13 to 15 touch points in the first 72 hours.
Yeah.
And again, as Michael said, you might be sitting there sweating, but as you've asked for help, because if we've probably had the experience where you like reached out to a business when you were a customer, and you didn't hear back for a little bit, and it's weird. Mm-hmm. I had to buy a thing like a month ago about a new solar battery for my cabin, and I called a company. They didn't answer. I found another phone number for that company online, called that. They didn't answer. I ordered it an hour later from another company. Yeah. Now, I know that's not the typical buying experience where like I had already decided on exactly what I wanted and I just wanted to buy it.
Sure.
Usually there's a little bit more than that, but it is a case being made of like, if they had picked up the phone, I would have given them $2,500.
Yep. 100%. That happens all the time where I buy from the person who gets back to me the fastest. Right. It happened with my gym membership when I moved out here to the country. I reached out to a bunch of gyms. Honestly, I don't know if I got the best one, but I responded to the one who responded to me first. Right. Like, I wasn't even doing that hard of vetting. I was like, just someone get back to me. And the one who did got my money. So I think it's a little bit of, beating the competition to the call. And also, again, they asked for help. Our job is to reach out. And if they don't want to hear from us, they'll let us know. At any point in this process, they can text or email or call us back and say, I'm no longer interested. And then all of this stops, right? We don't continue doing this follow-up if someone says, leave me alone. But at this point, from days 1 through 3, how often do you get someone to say, leave me alone?
Well, we run paid ads, so it's colder traffic.
Sure.
I'd say off the top of my head, like 1 out of 4 say leave me alone.
Yeah.
And then we're like, great, thanks. Honestly, it happens with BFU. If someone's like, I'm not interested, or, instead of hitting do not disturb, they say, please take me off your list. Yep. And I reply with a, thanks for getting back to me. I'll take you off right now. As a business, I genuinely appreciate it.
Yeah. Save me the time.
Tell me, I don't actually want to call you if you don't want to buy it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think on very cold traffic, when you're doing paid ads, and you're really getting strangers to try and respond to you and interact with you after they filled out a form online. Yeah, you might get something like, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 people who reach out and say like, this is not for me. Great. You just, great. Take them off the list if they really want to be off the list. But the rest are still on. So keep going. So when we talk about stage two, we're really talking about days 4 through 7. So how do we scale back a little bit in the outreach in the second stage? But you want to walk us through it, Ben?
Yeah, typically you're looking at like 1 to 3 touch points a day now rather than 4 to 5. So we have it as day 4 is an email.
Mm-hmm.
Day 5 is a call with no voicemail and a text. Day 6 is a call with no voicemail. Day 7 is a text. And this is the stage where if you don't get an answer, I mean, I don't have the data to back this up, but I would guess the likelihood of them becoming a client if they don't answer in this is probably
Mm-hmm.
down by 90%.
Yeah. Well,
So
and at this point, I think the thing that I like about our script, and I encourage you all listeners to do the same or join Unicorn Society and get our script, which is we continue to be really human about this, right? I mean, what I'm looking at our script right now, and one of the texts is something like, hey, Ben, I know I've been reaching out for the past week. I hope I'm not bothering you. Do you still want to learn about our program? Right? Like that's what I would say to a friend who I'm trying to schedule brunch plans with, and they don't respond to me. Like, hey, do you still want to do brunch? Am I just bothering you at this point?
yeah,
And if they say, oh, actually, no, I'm not free anymore that day. Great, I'll stop bothering you. Right? But just respond back. Right? So throughout all of these outreaches, again, we're just trying to get them to respond. To let us know they're still interested, then we'll likely get them on a phone call or likely get them into our low barrier offer in whatever fastest way we can do that. Okay, so that's stage 2. What about stage 3? These are really kind of the second week.
yeah, really, just really quick. A
Please.
point you made is we're not, all of these scripts don't ever talk about buying the program.
Mm-hmm.
Not once. They're confirming that they're interested in it and they're moving them to the next step, which in this case is a discovery call.
Yep.
So it's like, when's the best time to get in touch with you? When's the time to chat to see if this is a good fit? It's never, hey, do you want to sign? Which membership do you want to sign up for? The only thing we're quote unquote selling here is a free 10 to 12 minute phone call.
Yep. Great distinction. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, I love that. All right, so now we're at stage 3. This is really kind of days 8 through 15 here. This is like the second week of them being a lead in your funnel. What's the outreach? The intensity lowers a little bit, but what does it look like here?
Yeah, we're looking at 1 to 2 messages every second day. Mm-hmm. So for instance, we're looking at a text, 2 days later doing a call with a voicemail on the text, and the 2 days later doing an email, 2 days after that doing a call with no voicemail and a text. So although our formula works, this is something where it's like 1 to 2 things every 2 days seems to be an appropriate frequency. And you are starting to acknowledge the fact that like, I haven't heard back from you and I'm concerned of being annoying, or are you still interested in getting started with the fitness program? This is the like, hey, Michael, I've asked you if you want to hang out 4 times now and I haven't heard back.
Yep.
Like, are things good? And I'd even use that kind of like confused, curious tone in a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't really want to bother you, but you said you wanted to do this thing. Like, can you just let me know where you're at?
Yeah. Yep. I think that's the great way to describe the mindset, right? And the tone here is like, I'm just kind of curious and confused, right? Like you said you wanted help, so I'm just here to offer it, but I'm not trying to be a stalker here. So let me know when you want me to back off. I just haven't heard from you yet. I'm just assuming you're busy. So I'm going to keep going until you tell me not to, right? Yeah. And I think that's a great energy to have, right? Because all too often, I say this with love in my heart, because I am often this kind of avatar for gyms, which is these are people often who, when you're reaching out to cold leads, who don't currently go to the gym right now, right? Who don't have a healthy habits around their health and wellness and fitness. And there's a lot of resistance they have to push through in themselves to bring themselves to get back to you, mm-hmm. right? It's not just they're so busy they have no time to text back. There's some resistance to trying a new habit, trying a new gym, going to put yourself into a place where you might feel a little uncomfortable or like a new person or look awkward for the first time, trying a new kind of workout, right? There's a lot that goes into people's resistance to getting back to you. So, don't assume anything about your leads as you go through this process. I think it's very easy for salespeople to become jaded and be like, oh, these leads they're just stupid. They're just lazy. They're just disorganized. They're just, you don't fucking know their lives.
They went to the gym 2 years ago and they did a thing that hurt their knee and they're terrified of the gym and they've been thinking about this for 3 months, but they've got guilt and shame.
Yeah.
it's not that they're assholes. It's that
No,
they're scared of something. Like, meet
100%.
them where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share just a very quick personal anecdote for myself. I had a neck issue. I have like a herniated disc in my neck, still do. And at one point, I was getting some treatment for it because I was having some real symptoms. And I met like three doctors who all immediately tried to tell me I need to have serious neck surgery, and it scared the shit out of me. Like three different people all was like, you have to have surgery immediately. Spoiler alert, I didn't have surgery and I'm doing fine now. But because I was so nervous to move, I was so nervous that I was going to make it worse by moving, I almost didn't work out for a year. I just did like some light yoga. I did some walking, some light biking for like almost a year. I was just too nervous to do anything. So if I would have reached out for help during that time, and when I eventually did start reaching out for help and went back to gym on a regular basis, this is when I didn't live near Mark Fisher Fitness anymore, for the record. I wasn't just not going to my own gym, right? But it took a lot to just say yes to getting that kind of help, because I was just so nervous that any kind of exercise or movement was going to mean I need neck surgery, and like no one wants neck surgery, spine surgery. So like, I just share as a personal anecdote, and that certainly colors my perspective on this topic. But I think more people than not have that kind of resistance of some way, shape, or form. That's part of what makes this lead follow-up so difficult, right? Is you're trying to get their attention and to try and get them to overcome any obstacles or barriers they have to starting a new healthy habit like this.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yeah. And even if they submit the form on your website or however they reached out to you, like they can oscillate between different stages of change. So just because they were like, they might be in like the contemplation stage and they're just curious, but they're scaring themselves that they're a little bit curious. Like these are things that you can include in emails to include some social proof based on the needs and wants of your avatar. But yeah, that's a really good story, Michael, to share of like, yeah, that fear is real, even in people who own gym.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right. So we've covered a lot here. Now we're coming up at the end of our time here. So we talked about the first 2 weeks of outreach. So let's just say that someone has not really gotten back to us in these 2 weeks. What happens to a lead after that?
Really simple. You just add them to your long-term nurture, meaning that they're included on any emails you get. Hopefully you're sending 1 or 2 emails a week that have like soft call to actions, but periodically you do offers. They're included in those offers when you get them. If you do any like events for non-members, they get the email about the nutrition thing or the whatever you're doing. Like you're just treating them like anyone who's a non-member who's on your email list. And reason why this is so critical is I remember we had a client, Jeff. I think I might have mentioned him before, like a year ago on the podcast.
Maybe.
In a consultation with me, he outright mentioned, he's like, I've been reading your emails for, I can't remember exactly what he said, but like 2 years before I decided that this was the thing I wanted to do.
Wow.
So if I had have just been like, fuck Jeff, he's not a good lead, he doesn't whatever, and I didn't continue to keep that relation, even though it was a very one-sided relationship, I didn't know he was reading my stuff, but he was. Like Jeff probably spent $5,000 with us that year.
Yeah, 100%. I can't tell you how many times that happened to us at MFF, where people who would straight up tell us, I've been following you guys on social media, watching your YouTubes, on your email, reading every email Mark sends for literally 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and just decided now this is the moment where I am ready to, or I'm comfortable kind of coming in. And obviously MFF, and like your gym, we serve a general population, right? And we get a lot of folks who do have those hesitations. So I think, this is a really important part, is that just because a lead doesn't commit now, just because a lead is not ready right now, doesn't mean they're never going to be ready. So make sure you have them on your email list, you're nurturing them on a regular basis, and you tag them as someone who has not yet converted. So when you make those offers to your list of people who are leads who have not converted, that they're on there and they're going to keep getting offers to come in. I think that's pretty crucial. All right, well, let's wrap it up here, Ben. How would you kind of, we started this podcast talking about the importance of speed to lead and the importance of persistence. I think we've demonstrated here what persistence looks like. How would you kind of summarize getting this process started for people who have not really kind of dove in yet?
Well, the first step is this gets a lot easier if you have any automation software. So obviously, again, shameless plug for Kilo because they do such great work. But like anything we mentioned with a email or a text can be automated because you know which days you're going to send them. Easy to build those automations and type them out.
Yep.
So lean into that if you haven't already. Second piece is really being willing to set your own internal fears and hesitations aside and just try this out. And I would even challenge you that, like, try to get a complaint. about frequency of follow up. You're going to get one or two eventually, but you will be astounded by how frequent or how infrequent that happens. I can think of like one person off the top of my head who was actually like unhappy with the amount of follow up. Wasn't just like, hey, I'm not interested anymore, stop. So being willing to set those fears aside and put on your experimenting lab coat and just give this a go for a month and see what happens, I think is probably the piece to help manage yourself as you try to execute this.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I'll add, one more, which is just a version of what you said. I just want to double down on. I think the hardest part about this is just the time it takes. Right. I mean, I was just talking to one of our Unicorns and members recently who is going to be on the podcast, I think in an episode a few after this. And they were talking about when they started really getting a lot of leads because they really doubled down on paid ads and they're doing all kinds of really great marketing. They had so much lead follow-up to do that it was taking them 3 to 4 hours a day of just doing lead follow-up because they really were getting a lot. That might not be true for all of you, but I think you need at least an hour, 30 to 60 minutes a day to really do lead follow-up well. If if you have any volume of leads at all, even if it's one lead a day, right? That cumulatively is going to be, a lot by the end of the next 2 or 3 weeks. If you're following up with them, you're going to need at least 30 minutes, ideally 60 minutes every single day to do this lead follow up well. And that's often the barrier for gym owners. Just can't squeeze out the time. Well, I say can't, I'll rephrase that. Have not yet figured out how to design their days in a way that allows them to squeeze out the time. And I think that's a really big part of it. If you don't have the time, it's not going to happen. And I promise there are no more important priorities in your business than this.
No, even to start, if you can do 15 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day, that can work wonders. Because to your point, there's no magic scripts, there's no magic software, there's no magic anything that I know of.
Yep.
A lot of it is just like being persistent and continuing to follow up with that.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. We'll leave it there. Thanks as always for a great conversation, sharing your wisdom, your experience. This is such an important topic for all of our listeners. So I hope we did it justice. Hope you dear listeners got a lot out of this, took lots of notes, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.